From Tumwater, Washington, going out to the 5 counties and beyond. No Shhh, it's the TRL Podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Annalisa, and we are your hosts for the library podcast that talks about more than just books. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Annalisa.
How are you?
I'm all right.
It is the end of 2024. How are we feeling?
It was an eventful year.
A year was had.
Yeah, a year was definitely had.
Well, we had an idea for what I'm calling a very special episode of the TRL podcast, which is to end our podcast year and the year 2024 on a positive note, on a heartwarming note, because I feel like that's what people crave this time of year. They want the good, the warm, the fuzzy.
Warmth and fuzziness.
Warmth and fuzziness. That's what we need right now. And this episode actually kind of reminds me, do you remember, we are both old enough to remember the 90s. Do you remember those chicken soup books?
It will not surprise you to learn that I never read them, but I don't know how you could be a library adjacent person and not be aware of them at least. So.
Right. They reigned supreme in the late 90s, and it was like chicken soup for the mother soul. It was like every...
Chicken soup for the teenager's soul. Chicken
Yes.
soup for the chicken soup lover's soul.
So this podcast episode, I think, is the podcast version of Chicken Soup for the Library Lover's Soul.
I like it. It makes less work for us because we asked all of our staff to do our hosting work for us. We asked everyone that we work with and who works with the public to share some warm and fuzzy stories with us. And we share those amongst ourselves throughout the year in different ways. We have a whole place on our intranet, on our staff intranet, dedicated to sharing these warm and fuzzy stories. But we thought it would be fun to share them with the public.
They're really sweet. So we're hoping that this kind of just is a nice way to end the year, make everyone feel happy.
This is a little library hug from us to you at the end of a long year.
Okay, that's adorable. We hope that you enjoy.
Hello, I work at the Yum Timberland Library. And in addition to all the great programs that library staff provide and perform daily, even more important, in my view, is the community space that we provide and support. And it's all free. It's a place where families come to meet, connect, and spend time together. And oftentimes I will see kids who connect here who are complete strangers when they come in. And oftentimes they hear, "Do you want to play? Do you want to hang out?" And they do, and we support that. And what a great way to spend our time being a hub for our community.
One of the patron experiences I've reflected on is assisting a patron who was using the Books by Mail program. She had shared how isolated and homebound and in chronic pain she was. So we got her set up with Books by Mail. And what I learned was that having those books and audiobooks by her side offered a bit of escape and a bit of solace. She shared that she read through an entire large print book every night, and it really helped. And I like to think that this is one service that we can provide that offers comfort to our homebound patrons.
I work at the Shelton branch, and sometimes I accompany the Mason County Anywhere Library specialist on his stops. And I've gone with him a couple of times to Pioneer Middle School to help out because there are just so many kids there who want his time and attention. And it's just too many people for one librarian to deal with. So last week I was helping him, and a teacher brought up a kid, and she was using her phone to translate into Spanish for him. And once I was able to pay attention to what they were doing instead of the other people I was talking to, once I realized that the kid spoke Spanish and not English, I was able to introduce myself and ask him what he needed and wanted. We were able to get him a library card and give him a book and check out a book to him. And the look on his face when he realized that somebody there could speak to him in his own language, it just made my heart sing. And when he realized that he had access to all of these books, and that we would do our best to find him any book that he wanted. If we could, we would do our best to find it for him. The excitement, he was jumping up and down. It was really fun. And that's why I work, because of those moments where I'm able to help a patron with something that maybe they didn't wake up that morning even knowing that they needed. Kid probably didn't wake up that morning saying, I need a public library. But he discovered a public library while he was at school, and it was marvelous.
There was one really sweet moment this year. We hosted a glow party, and we had a lot of crafts that involved glitter and glow paint. It was so sweet to see how excited all of the kids and the adults were over all of the glitter, especially the glitter sensory bottles. There was one kid who was so ecstatic about the glitter that they put every single color of glitter we had in their bottle, and they excitedly told me that it was the best day of their life.
This was definitely one of the feel-good stories for me that happened here in Raymond. This summer, we had a patron in that was passing through here in late August, and he was still so happy with his interaction he had in Packwood at their library. This gentleman is a combat veteran with PTSD, and he had just hiked over Mount Rainier. He had been harassed and made to feel uncomfortable in different cities and towns he had stopped in, like hitchhikers weren't wanted there, etc. But when he hit Packwood Library, he was made to feel so welcome and comfortable there by their staff and patrons. I was so happy to hear that, and I told him I hoped he would continue stopping at the libraries. We made sure he had a positive experience here as well.
Our scavenger hunt is wildly popular here at our library, as I'm sure it is in many of our other library branches. But I will tell you what I see here in Yelm. So many kids all day long come in the library and they make a beeline right for the scavenger hunt materials, and their adults, their parents, their grandparents, their nannies, whoever is with them, stop and tell me they can't wait to be here and do the scavenger hunt. Now, it can't be just about the prizes. It's more about the activity, the excitement to be here, to own the space. And so many times they make connections with other kids who are here. I've seen many friendships made here because of a scavenger hunt. And what a joy to be part of it all.
So a few weeks ago, a mother came into the North Mason Library with her reluctant fifth grader who needed a book for an upcoming book report. He wasn't very excited about being there, but I did show him a few books and asked him a few questions. I did mention one book that might interest him if he liked the show Stranger Things. That seemed to catch his attention just a little bit, and he did check out the book. I didn't think any more of it until I saw the mom the following week. She had to come up to tell me that he had read the whole book in just 2 days, and she was there to see what else we have that is similar. And she even asked if I had recommendations for his younger sibling. These are small moments that remind me why I love this job. We help people to spark a love of reading, one book at a time.
This is a story shared by a staff member in Olympia. I was picking up supplies for a program when a patron noticed the TRL van and pulled me aside. She chatted with me for several minutes about how much the library, the Tumwater branch in particular, meant to her late father. He had suffered a major stroke, which hindered his ability to visit the library. But over the next 10 years or so, staff would gather stacks of books on World War II history to be picked up for him, often adding in other books they felt he might love based on some other interests and feedback passed back and forth. This opened him up to many other options and kept him seeking more. She attributed his connection to the library as well as his grandchildren with helping him overcome the dire diagnosis and live and learn much longer than anyone expected, even living long enough to meet his first great-grandchild.
I'm the Teen and STEAM Education Librarian at Shelton Timberland Library. So last spring, I was lucky enough to be a part of a refresh project in our teen area that ultimately included new furniture, softer lighting, calming artwork, and my favorite, an art wall that helped set the space apart from the family and children's areas. The idea was to create a cozy cafe vibe where students could relax after school and feel safe exploring activities, movies, our book collections, and new friendships, or where they could just unplug and have some time to relax by themselves. Since then, we've seen many middle and high schoolers use the space as a regular hangout. And out of that have come so many stories and encounters with young teens who've been brave enough to open up, be vulnerable, and try out new experiences. The stories I really want to tell you are from teens who I've seen struggle socially or who are learning to navigate neurodivergence. But it's the small moments where I watch individuals begin to engage with friendly peers for the first time, to leave behind their safety net of parents and siblings and approach someone new. If we're lucky, we get a front row seat to the moment when lifelong friends meet for the first time. And as much as I love books and films and everything else we have here at the library, those are the stories that mean the most to me.
Well, those were touching.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
I'm definitely not crying, but I'm also cold-hearted.
Well, we hope that our listeners enjoyed listening to those stories.
Yeah, our staff have told us that these are examples of the sorts of things that motivate them to come to work every day. So hopefully you heard that in some of their stories.
Yeah. So we hope that you enjoyed listening to them. And we also want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in this past year, our first year of podcasting.
Made it to episode 12.
Yes, we did. We're still here. And, you are not fired, which was a constant threat in the beginning you felt. So both of us have our jobs. And if you have ideas for podcast episodes, we'd love to hear them.
Or an idea for a guest. Or if you want to be a guest yourself, we're always open to your ideas. And
you can be from anywhere. We can get you on this podcast if you would like to be a guest.
We can make it happen.
Yeah. So reach out to us at TRL Podcast at TRL.org.
That's right.
And we will just be here again next year, bigger and better.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you in 2025. Thank you for joining us on today's episode. Don't forget to follow or subscribe on your preferred podcast platform. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more listeners.
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Timberland Library. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at trlpodcast@trl.org.
Original music is by our very own librarian and talented musician, Stefan, at the Yelm Branch.
Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep the conversation going. Thank you for being a part of the TRL community.